What's up, guys? I've been getting asked a lot of questions on if people should buy the Azron keypad or not. So in today's video, I'm going to go over some pros and cons of the Azron keypad, and then you guys can make your own decision based off of what I say. I don't want to necessarily tell you to buy the Azron keypad, because then people are going to buy it and then get mad because they don't like it or it doesn't make them better, and they're going to blame me for it. So doing it this way, not telling you guys to buy the keypad right out, is my way of saying you can't blame me. Anyways, let's get right into the video. So first I'm going to start out with the positives, and the positive that everyone looks for when they look up this keypad is 360 movement or controller movement, the analog stick movement. This is really crucial, and it's very much an advantage because you get to move like a controller player, and you can also build and edit and shoot like a mouse and keyboard player. So this is the biggest pro. This is what everyone looks for. This is why the keypad is so popular, and this is the main positive. So the next positive I'm going to talk about is that the Azron takes up a lot less space than a normal keyboard does. I'm going to put a picture up on the screen of a full keyboard, a 60% keyboard, and this Azron. You can see that the Azron is so much smaller, which gives you a big advantage because you have more room for your mouse, and you don't have to worry about your mouse hitting your keyboard as much. Or you don't have to adjust your mouse as much, which gives you a big advantage in build fights and gunfights. The next thing is that the Azron causes a lot less hand fatigue than a normal keyboard does. If you watch people play on normal keyboards, you can see that their pointer finger clicks on 8 or 9 buttons, which is a lot, and it'll wear your finger out fast, and then your hand will hurt a lot more, or your wrist, because sometimes it's awkward to click the buttons. The Azron, you only have 3 buttons to click per finger, and it rests in there, and you don't have to worry about hand fatigue as much. Trust me on this one. Your fingers only move a little bit per button click. It's a little bit awkward to push the button with the back of your finger, but you'll get used to it really quick, and it's definitely a lot better for hand fatigue. In addition to this, you can adjust the finger placements of the Azron very easily. There's a little screw on the back of the Azron that you can unscrew and slide each button group up and down per finger, so you can put it in the ultimate position, and you cannot get this on a normal keyboard. So this is also very helpful if you have smaller hands or bigger hands. The next thing is that the Azron is highly customizable, and the software is very easy to use. Each button on the Azron can be programmed to a different button on the keyboard using the software, and you can also create different profiles. So if you play different games, profile 1 could be Fortnite, and profile 2 can be Apex or Call of Duty or any other game that you want it to be. This is very helpful in switching between games, and it only takes a little bit to memorize what each button does, but once you memorize, it's pretty easy, and it is just muscle memory like any other keyboard. The next thing is that if the Azron breaks, one of the buttons stop working or becomes less clicky, or if one of the 3D printed legs break, which can happen, it's just plastic, you can go to their website and order replacement parts. The issue with that is that you have to be crafty enough to fix it, and I haven't broken mine yet, cross my fingers, but you might have to solder the switches to wiring. So if you know how to do that, great. If not, then you might have to look up some tutorials and order some more stuff in order to fix it. So that can be a huge hassle, but it's still fixable, which is definitely a positive if you are willing to put in the effort. The next thing is that if you have any issues with the keypad, you can always DM the company on Twitter. They've always responded to me, so this isn't really about the keypad itself, but it's really nice that the company is able to have good customer service. This isn't a big thing, but I believe the newer Azrons come with customizable thumbsticks. You can unscrew and screw in a thumbstick, whether you like concave, convex thumbsticks, or different grips. You can adjust this out, which is really nice. Mine is an older one and it came with thumbstick covers, so instead of being able to unscrew and screw in a new thumbstick, I can just put on a different cover. So I use a concave one, but different people like different things. The final positive, if you want to call it a positive, is that if you're looking for something new and exciting to get you back into Fortnite or whatever game you play, then you can use this keypad and learn a whole new input and then grind it out, and it's satisfying building your ability on something new. I'm counting this as a positive. People might not, but this is my video, so I can do what I want. I know I've listed many positives, however you can't have positives without negatives, so now let's get into the negatives of this keypad. The first negative I'm going to talk about is that the analog stick is kind of big. If you're used to a controller analog stick, the controller analog stick is very small and only moves a little bit. Whereas if you go to the Azeron, it has a very wide range of motion, which is kind of annoying. However, you can combat this a little bit with a Control Freak Precision Ring. I have one of those on it and it's helped out a little bit, but it's still not as good as a normal controller analog stick. This next issue is not when you're playing games, it's more of a warning to you guys. I moved from city to city and I packed up the Azeron and it was in a hot car for a little bit, and so since the legs are plastic, they can get warped, and so I had to order replacement ones because my Azeron got warped and it caused issues. It didn't sit flat on the desk, so it's fixable, but it's just a warning. Don't leave it in a hot car. Don't pack it away and leave it in a hot area. Make sure it's out on the table and in the area that it's going to be in a cool environment. Back to in-game issues. The next issue I have is not necessarily with the keypad itself, it's with Fortnite. When you pull up the in-game menu or your inventory, it'll flutter between the inputs if you're moving the analog stick at all. This doesn't cause issues with your inventory. However, it's just kind of annoying that you see it fluttering, and you know, it's just something you have to deal with, but it doesn't really cause that much of an issue or any issues that I've had. It's just kind of annoying. The next issue is that the top buttons are hard to click. The top buttons you can't really use in a fight that well because you have to move your finger out of the hole that it's in with the 3 buttons and press those top buttons. So I normally use those for like pinging or pulling up your menu or pulling up the map, something you're not doing when you're in a fight. But you know, if you wanted to use these buttons, they're kind of hard to use. I've not been able to use them. It's just awkward, but you know, you at least have some inputs that you can assign them to. It's just not going to be useful in a fight. The next thing is that there's no button indication on the buttons. Even if there were, they wouldn't really be that helpful unless you assign them to a specific value and you wrote the value on the buttons or something. You know, when you're first starting out using keyboard, sometimes you have to look down at your keyboard. When you first use the Azeron, sometimes you click the wrong button and then you have issues with it. However, you know, this is something that can be negated with muscle memory, but you know, you just have to wait until you get that muscle memory down, and you can't have any help at all when you press the buttons. You're just gonna have to press the button, and if you press the wrong one, then tough. So that's an issue I have with this keypad. It's not something that can be fixed, but you know, an issue is an issue. The next thing is that there's going to be a big learning curve. This isn't unique to just the Azeron, because you know, there's going to be a learning curve on controller or the keyboard. This is just something that, you know, is a negative, and that you're just going to have to get used to it, and it's going to take a little bit, but once you get used to it, you're going to start getting better. It just has that little hump that you have to get over. Once you get over the hump, then it's just so much better. This next issue is that there's a limited number of button choices on the Azeron. You only get 24 to 26 depending on which one you get, and you have a limited number of buttons per finger. 3 minus your pointer finger gets 4. This is an issue if you like having more than 4 inputs with your pointer finger. You can't do that. You have to assign it to 20 other fingers. Another issue is with Fortnite itself. You know, Fortnite has building, it has weapon slots, it has editing. You have so many buttons you need to assign, and so you're going to have to be creative with your button choices and which finger does what. So that's going to take a little bit of time. You know, you're going to have to do that if you want to be able to use this keypad. Another issue is going to be switching between games. While you can create different profiles for different games, you're going to have to memorize what each button does for each game, which, you know, might take a while and takes a lot of muscle memory, and you're going to have to be playing those games constantly in order to remember that. So it is easy to do this with different profiles, but it's also hard because you're going to have to memorize what each button does for multiple games. The final negative, which is the negative probably stopping most of you guys from buying it, is the price. $200 is a lot to spend on a keyboard, let alone the Azeron. A keyboard, you can at least, you know that you have something you can type with. You may not like the switches, but you can at least use it for normal everyday use, whereas the Azeron is solely for gaming, and if you don't like it, then you just have a $200 paperweight. For those of you who don't know, a $200 paperweight, that's way too much to spend on a paperweight. Never spend $200 on a paperweight because that's a waste of money. That's all the positives and negatives I had for this video. The point of this video was to help you decide whether or not you wanted to buy this keypad or not by listing out what I thought were all the positives and what I thought were all the negatives after using this keypad for a year. I don't want to tell you straight up buy this keypad because I don't want you guys yelling at me later on, like I said at the beginning. Personally, I like this keypad. I would have bought it again because I've used it for a year. I've enjoyed it. I've used it on other games. I've had no issues with it. However, I don't want to make the decision for you. That's all I had for this video. I'll put a list of all the positives and negatives I talked about so you guys don't have to go back scrolling through the video and figuring out what I talked about. You guys have a big summary on the screen right now. Real quick, I'm going to add a little bit of self-promotion to this video. If you guys want to follow my Twitch, the link will be down below in the description. I go live Tuesdays, Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm also streaming random days throughout the week, so make sure you turn on notifications and it'll let you know when I go live. In addition, you can also join my Discord. The link will be down below in the description as well. There, you can ask me questions about the Azeron. It also gives you information on when I go live and when I upload a video. You can also talk to me about random things. I'm pretty active in there, so just talk and I'll answer. That's all I had for self-promotion. Let's go to the rest of the outro. If you found this video helpful at all in any way, shape, or form, please make sure you like and subscribe. It'll really help me out. If you have any more questions about the Azeron, please make sure to leave comments down below. I'll try to answer them all. I'm hoping that I can help you guys make the decision so you guys don't regret it in the future, but I'm not going to make the decision for you. That is my bottom line. It's up to you guys to make the decision for this keypad, and I'm hoping this video helps. With that, this video is done. I hope you guys have a wonderful day.